Thank you for accepting this interview. You wrote a book on the paleo diet. Could you tell us more about what that is?
Um, the paleo diet stands for the word Paleolithic, and Paleolithic means the old Stone Age. And so the old Stone Age is a period that occurred 2.5 million years ago until 10,000 years ago. And all ancestors were hunter-gatherers. And so our basic idea behind the paleo diet is to try to emulate the nutritional characteristics of old Stone Age or paleo diets using foods that are commonly available to Western people. And we believe that these types of foods then can help to prevent chronic disease that seems to impact most of the Western world.
Because what happened with this change was what happened with the agriculture 10,000 years ago? What did the agriculture brought? What happened there? Can you hear me?
Well, hunter-gatherers usually go out and study non-Western. Yes, the agriculture brought types of foods and food categories that were novel. These foods into our of a lifetime, they can promote chronic disease. And so these are foods that came in first during the Neolithic period, the period from 10,000 years ago until 5,500 years ago. And then it began to accelerate after the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago. And it continues to accelerate such that many people rarely eat the wild plant and animal foods that we are genetically adapted to. And so these are fruits and vegetables, lean meats and seafoods.
Mm-hmm. So
the foods that were
sorry, I have a little.
The foods that were not part of the menu were cereal grains, even though cereal grains are staples in most of the Western world. Cereal grains were rarely, if ever, consumed by hunter-gatherers. They also didn't drink milk or eat any dairy products. They obviously wouldn't have eaten any refined or processed foods, refined sugars, had very little salt in their diet. They had no refined vegetable oils. And these foods, refined sugars, refined grains, refined vegetable oils, and salty foods, comprise roughly 70% of the total calories in the Western diet. And so we believe then if you replace these foods that are foreign to our genome with foods that are more consistent with the foods that humanity evolved with, it improves our health and our well-being.
And so studies have been made. This started basically in the 70s, right? Somebody started talking about why wouldn't we go back to eating this way? And then it's been proven scientifically that this type of diet works.
Yeah, the idea was, it's been around for a long period of time. You can even go back to Rousseau, and Rousseau talked about the pure man, and I think that the idea actually got into the medical literature in the mid-1980s. My colleague Boyd Eaton at Emory University wrote a paper in New England Journal of Medicine that really got the information going, and everybody kind of looks back to that paper as the beginning. We now, as we fast forward to the 21st century, we have completed 4 randomized controlled trials of this diet. And so these randomized controlled trials have indicated that this way of eating is superior to, let's say, for instance, the Mediterranean diet, which has been touted as being a very healthy way to eat, is that people actually did better in terms of the physiologic endpoints and markers than they did with the Mediterranean diet.
Mm-hmm. So you say yes to meat and fish, but actually the quality of the fish and meat and the quality of the vegetables are not the same these days than they were. So is that still okay? Because they don't have all the nutriments that they had, do they?
Well, ideally, in the best of all worlds, ideally, we would like to eat wild animals and wild game, but most people in the United States, for instance, it's illegal to transport wild game across state lines, so commercially can't use it. You can only, if you hunt, you can only use the meat that you kill yourself. So it's difficult to get wild animals, but we can have second best. In the United States, we can raise our animals, our chicken and our pork and our beef using grass-fed or pasture-fed type of processes. And when we do this, then it produces meat that is closer in nature to wild meat than, let's say, the meat that we produce in the feedlot. Here in the United States, we fatten up our cows on grain, and that produces a meat that tends to have fat characteristics that are very dissimilar to what we find in wild animals. So there are ways and means to get around it. Grass-fed meats can be purchased in Europe as well as the United States.
And how about...
And the fish, of course.
Yeah, fish, yeah.
You know, we're gradually overfishing our oceans, and fish is becoming more and more expensive. But fish is still available to most people in the West, and clearly fish is a very healthful food, and the nutritional characteristics of wild fish is similar to what we find in wild game animals. Eventually, I would suspect, though, that the oceans are going to be overfished, and we're going to have to rely upon farmed fishing. And with farm fishing, the problem is what we feed the farm fish. We feed them grains and other foods which adversely affect the nutritional characteristics.
And they were not drinking any milk whatsoever. So you're actually recommending not to...